Thanks. Thanks, Fubar. I just want to do a sound check. If you can let me know if you can hear me. Okay, I'll do a sound check now. If you can let me know if you can hear me. Beauty. Okay, well, apologies for the delay, guys. Actually, the stream started about 10 minutes ago. I was wondering why no one could hear me. So thanks for Flair for saying that the stream hadn't started, because I had no idea. Okay, the good doctor says that he or she can hear me, so that's good. Good stuff. Righto, sound is okay. There's a miracle for you. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining into today's live stream. The idea of today's live stream is to do a run through of the new Joystick Wizard that came through with patch 0.11. Joystick Wizard was put together by Colander from Team Fusion Simulations, and is a response, or I guess a positive response, of course, to the community's, many in the community's thoughts that the getting set up was or can be problematic. I mean, certainly with flight simulations, you've got choices aplenty as to what you want to bind and all that sort of thing. And ideally, the goal is to make that experience as simple as you possibly can get. Well, I can say with the Joystick Wizard, for at least the controls, I mean, there's other bindings that you still have to do, but certainly from a control point of view, I don't think it can get any simpler. So I'm actually interested. Okay, thanks, Yo. I'll just let people know to join. Yeah, thanks, Fubar. I just sent the same thing. The joys. Not sure why the first one didn't work and this one did, because I did exactly the same thing to kick it over. So I'll just wait. I think we had 20 odd in the other stream, so I'll just wait around. So is anyone who's listening at watching at the moment actually tried the Joystick Wizard? Yeah, sorry, Marku, the first stream didn't work, so I had to re-kick it over. I was talking away and everyone was having a normal chat about other things, and I thought something's gone wrong here. Okay, so Marku, this might be your first look at the Joystick Wizard, which is good. That's the kind of person I'm aiming at today. Anyone else tried it out? Hey Ian, how you going? Raf, you're back. Hey, I was actually reading your comments when I thought I was live streaming before, and yeah, I've got a force feedback too as well, which I sort of alternate around a little bit, and I use the hot ass throttle, and it works fine with me too. Hey Jeffrey, how you going, mate? Righto. What did you think of the actual functionality of it, Fubar? Okay guys, so we'll get into it. So as I said, the Joystick Wizard came with the latest patch yesterday or the day before, depends where you are I guess, and which is patch number 11. Colander from Team Fusion Simulations has put this together, and I think he's done a fantastic job. We've been developing it now for quite a while, and had the Tobruk beta testers have a crack at it. So the first thing you need to know is, where is it? So this is where it is in your folder. So Joystick Wizard is where you go to. Yeah, Flair, I'm sure once everyone gets their joystick squared away, mate, they'll be over watching you, and that would be good. Okay, so we'll kick it over. Now, first and foremost, before you do the Joystick Wizard, you need to have your joystick plugged in, so please make sure you've done that. If you've got a trim wheel, I've got a Cytec trim wheel. For those who have one, you know that you've got to kind of activate it before the game starts. You just get that squared away before you get in as well. And you've got two options here. So we've got basic controls, which we'll get to in a minute, and then we've got more advanced controls, which you can see here. So I'll go into the basic controls first. There are some that I'm going to use, so you can see what I'm doing, others that I don't use, but I'll just obviously show them as we go through. And the reason I won't even try it is because I've got key bindings for everything, and want to keep it that way. So let's get into it. And as I was saying before, please make sure your devices are connected. Now before I start, I just want to make sure everyone can actually see this. I won't assume that one. So if you can just let me know you can see it. Excuse me. Okay, thanks Will. So beauty. Righto, let's get into it. So we've got our devices in. So that's your rudder pedals, that's everything that you're going to use. Okay, so step one, aileron controls. So all you need to do is just move your joystick. Bang, it's picked it up. I've got a Purple Mongoose joystick, so that's what comes up on mine. You get a chance to invert it. If you want to skip it, I don't know why you would, you can do that, but simply you just go next. Next is the elevator controls. Rudder. Throttle control. So it's all extremely self-explanatory. Okay, we get the main trigger. And if you've got something already bound like I have, I'm just going to override it just for the sake of the video. And if you've got toe brakes, now the great thing for me personally, because with the Mongoose has an analog brake lever. Used to have the Warthog, which has got a brake lever, but it's a digital, it's essentially a button. The Mongoose... Oh, okay, sorry, I'll just answer this question there for Marku. No, it doesn't, mate. No, you can go left, right, as long as you go in the right way. So, as said, so I'm just reading the comments as we're going. I must say it's much easier when you're doing a tutorial like this and you're not flying, because you can't pick my head moving from different screens. I'm always mindful of that when I'm doing live streams. But as I said, with the Mongoose, and you might have another controller that does as well, it's got an analog brake lever. And using this program is the first time I could get it to work in Cliffs and Tobruk, which I'm thrilled about, because it makes you know, flying in the RAF aircraft in particular much easier. So there we go. Go next. So that's the finish of the basic setup. That is done. So what do you think of that? Yep, Fubar. Is it easier? Hell yeah, it is. So yeah, chuck a comment in. What did you think of that, guys? Does anyone want to see it again? I can go back over it. It's okay. Yeah, I think with the in Team Fusion, that once we saw this program and there was a hell yeah, this is the way to go. Marku, thank you. And I will say too, I forgot to mention that the Joystick Wizard is available in has been translated into all the languages that we have for our manuals as well. So yeah, no, Raf, and what I'll at the end I'll sort of show you, because some people might also have more than one joystick. Mine, I've got a joystick and a yoke, so if I'm flying a bomber, I'll move the joystick over and I'll use a yoke just a little bit, yeah, I don't know, simulated a bit better given it's a yoke aircraft. I must say, using a yoke when you're flying the Beaufighter, that's pretty hard to aim and stuff, but it does make it more realistic, at least for me anyway. Yeah, sorry mate, you just got me talking. So I'll go to the advanced. Okay, so we've got trim adjustments, aileron, elevator and rudder. Now as we go through the advanced, there are going to be times when it's going to ask you for an axis choice and a button choice. So you just need to make sure you're reading the instructions as we go through. Hey, will say thanks for that. That's a great wrap, mate. Really appreciate that. Hope Colin is actually either watching or he'll see this later on. He'll be pretty stoked with that comment. Hey, Perth, thank you. Okay, so we'll go to the aileron. So if you do use an access control, you can set it up right here. Personally, I don't. So I'm not going to do it there, but if I use the slider on there just to show you, because I can go back, the slider on the Warthog, it'll pick it up. Okay, and now here's another thing. If you go skip, it won't save. You need to go to next. Okay. So I'm going to go skip because I don't want to save it. Okay, so if you actually use buttons for aileron trim, you can put them in there, Once again, I'm not going to actually save it because I don't use a button for aileron trim. But it's as simple as put your input in and go next. Tell all your friends, that's it. And then the right button as well, same thing. It's once again, make sure if you're saving it though, you go next. I'm only skipping because I don't want to use it. Okay, now through the advance, it's going to save as you go. And as you can see, this will write, what we do today will go into your conf user ini file. Now, I'm going to show you what that's going to look like because it gets saved in the conf user ini file is in your 1C soft club folder. And what you're going to see at the end, because it's going to keep saving and you're going to have a version of that save at that time, and you can just delete all those, but I'll show you at the end. So we'll move on there, we'll just save it for, in fact I can. Okay, then you go to elevator trim. Once again, if you've got an axis, put it in, there's my slider there. I'll just go cancel because I want to go back to that. With the trim wheel that I have, sometimes it takes a little bit longer to pick up. I think that's a trim wheel thing, it's certainly not the program thing, but God love it, for the sake of this video, it's picked it up straight away. Once again, you got the option to invert. So we'll go next because we are saving that. Now, if you use buttons, this is where you can go and put that in if you don't have trim wheel. Not many people do. But I say, if you get a cheap one, thoroughly recommend it. Excuse me. Okay, so once again, you can put your buttons in. I don't, so I'm going to skip it. And for the down, same thing. And that's it, save. It is that easy. Okay, rudder. Once again, if you have an axis, put your axis in here. I said it works there. I don't use an axis for the rudder, so I'm going to skip that. But I do use buttons. So left, next, don't use skip. Yeah, we're getting rid of that. And right. They are the trims. Okay, next we'll go to the engine controls. War emergency power. These, I got to tell you, from when I first started, it was I found it very easy to set the boost for the RAF planes, but the WEP for the Luftwaffe planes, it was a really hard one to find and which one worked. I think there was 2 originally. We've simplified it now for sure. Hey Raf, are you talking about into the game? Because it's just a file, which I'll show you at the end. But the war emergency power and the boost are both in this section here. So if you have an axis control for WEP, you can put it in there. I don't because I use a button, so we just skip that. And then put the button you normally use. Boost cutout. And it is simple as that. Hey Kostya, I'd love to know what you said there. Don't have translate handy, but if someone wants to translate that, that'd be great. Oh, sure, mate. Yeah, just save the file. Okay, so we'll go save. And water radiator, if you use an axis, I do. Got a throttle quadrant. So you just go, as soon as you move it, it picks it up. Yeah, Yeah, absolutely, Marku. Oh, yeah, I think we've all lived through that pain, mate. Okay, and if you use buttons, which I don't because I've got the throttle quadrant, you just import those into that. There's rudder. If you use automatic, we are done. Oil radiator axis, got that on the quadrant as well. Bang, that simple. Thanks, Joe. If we haven't got it in Russian already, we will get it in Russian for sure. Okay, so once again we go there, and then if you use buttons to open and close your radiator, you can use those. That's all radiator. Prop pitch, same thing, got an axis, kick it over. Now I do use, when I'm flying the 109, 110s, I do use a button for prop pitch rather than the lever. I just feel that this works a bit easier and it's easy for me when I'm flying. For anyone who uses the E1s or E3s, engine management is, it certainly keeps you busy, and particularly in a dogfight. For those who've never flown an E1, yeah, Rafi, I'll show it at the end. Thanks, Joe. Anyone who hasn't flown an E1 or an E3, and you go up against them in a fight and you go, wow, they're really good, have a go at one yourself and see how difficult it is to monitor and manage your RPM and fight at the same time. All kudos to the guys that can do that very, very well. But anyway, so that's why I use buttons. And auto prop pitch is what you definitely need to have for the planes. So kick that in. I don't know why it comes up with that, but I'm going to override anyway. So we're now finished. And that is the engine related controls done. Now if I wasn't talking so much, you'd do that in about a minute. Okay, Raf, you ask about flaps. We will talk about flaps right now. Hey Vlurkies, how you going, man? Thanks for joining. Righto, for Raf. You must be psychic, mate. Landing flaps. Okay, yes, the landing flaps have an axis control. So, as you can see, I just use my slider on the Warthog, bang. There it is. But I actually use my slider on the Warthog for the Bombay doors, so I'm not going to use it here. But I do have the button, so down, next. For those who have just joined and have missed, when you're going through this program, when you assign a key, go next, don't go skip, because it will miss your assignment. Okay, next. Flaps toggle, don't use it, so I'll skip that one. Flaps are done. Undercarriage. Axis control, I use the left lever on the throttle quadrant for undercarriage. There it is. If you use buttons for up, down, and toggle, you can do that. Raph, I just read your comment. Well, I don't know where Colin lives, mate, but go and find him and send him a Christmas card. Okay, so I don't use that, so I'm just going to skip that, and I'm going to skip up And just in case my throttle quadrant decides not to work, which hasn't happened yet, but you never know, I do assign a toggle for that. Okay, next. Okay, now if you want to have brakes assigned to one of your peripherals, you can assign it here. I don't need it. I don't have a key for it anyways, but I'd normally use B on the keyboard, which you can't use here. So I'll just go no, but if you have a button you use, you can put the button in there and there's your brakes. Okay, undercarriage is now done. The takeoff and landing is squared away. Can you just let me know, I'm going through this slow enough, I'm not going too quick. Okay, the next one I'll go into bombing. Bomb bay doors, as I said, I do use a the slider on the throttle quadrant, so I'll kick that in there. Next. And if you have a toggle button that you use, you can put something like that in there. Bomb armed. Thanks, Marku. That is that. Bomb button. Now, who doesn't use the red button on their joystick if they've got one for dropping bombs? Righto, we just got all the bombing stuff squared away. Thanks, Ian. Okay, now the view related, I use TrackIR, so there's a lot of this I'm not going to actually bind because I don't have something to bind it with as far as any more buttons, but we'll go through that for those who don't. Okay, so here's a tricky one, and this is what you need to, I found when I've done this. There's a few options on the zoom, okay? Personally, I use zoom in and zoom out, and this is a big assumption, but I assume most people do. This is not zoom in and zoom out at the moment. So there are buttons that you can assign. Personally, I don't use them. So when we get there, it'll be quite obvious. So normal zoom control is an option, minimum zoom control is an option, but it's the decrease zoom and increase zoom that are zoom in and zoom out. Okay, so decrease, make sure you go next. I nearly did skip. I've done it a few times. Zoom in and lean to gun sight. Everyone, that is the Joystick Wizard. You're now squared away with pretty much everything you need to do to get in an aircraft, take off, shoot and bomb things. So now that everyone has seen the total program, I'll get into a little bit more in a second, but what do you think? Let us know. Yeah, Vlurkies, that smooth zoom. Ooh, I think everyone who saw Fubar's pretty happy about it. Oh, great. Thanks for your comments, guys. Keep them coming. This is a good thing for a Sunday morning. For those who don't know, I'm in Australia. It's 7:45 in the morning here. So, great way to start the day. You probably can hear the birds in the background. Okay, so the next thing is, where is it? As I mentioned, oh sorry, I will get into just to answer some of the questions. Jeffrey, yes it did, actually. And as I said, we had the beta team, we were able to test it as Colander was putting it together. Didn't require a huge amount of changes, but you know, it was essentially a really good team effort to get it to where it is now, but we're really happy with it. 11 PM in Finland, Marky, right? Well, you're probably having a beer or something. I guarantee I'm not here. I've already had my first coffee. Okay, so the next bit. Let's I'll just see if I can put that over here for a minute. See if I can keep the screen up. So where does it go? Righto. I'll just move that to my other screen. Now this is in, as I said, your 1C soft club in your documents folder. So the last save we did is now a part of your conf user ini folder, file. Oh, Skids reckons it's 2004. Oh, 2014, like you're backwards, or is that the time, mate? Probably would go 6 years back in the UK at the minute, that's for sure. Righto, 8:45 in UK. Righto. Okay, so as I said, I digress. This is where the last save is. All the backups we did as we were going through this section in particular are all those. Okay, so you don't need them anymore, so you can just delete them all. Now, when you go into game the next time, yeah, I'm sure it is, we'll say. When you go into the game the next time, this is the configuration you're going to have. Okay, so when you go into controls, which I will in a minute, you can then, what I did, because you can see some of my controls that I've got, don't need Warthog anymore because I don't have it, but the three that I use, I've got a Warthog when I want to use, force feedback when I want to use that, disregard the date, I just haven't changed it when I saved it. I've got my Mongoose, which I'm currently using for this demonstration, and I have a yoke that I've got here, which is the honeycomb yoke, which is pretty new and it's pretty bloody awesome. So that's what I've got there. So when you go into game, under your settings, I'll show you in a moment, is you save it as, this is for people who've got more than one joystick or yoke, save it as that yoke, give it a name that's going to be obvious, and that's done. Okay, yes, your conf user is still going to be there, okay, but then you've got it as a different name. If you then want to go and set up another joystick or a yoke, what you do is you go back into the wizard, you go right through this again, and that'll say, and at the end it'll save it as your new conf user. Okay. When you go back into the game, and under your controls, save that as whatever your other joystick is or your yoke. Okay. From that point on, you then have these. Okay. So you'll have a mongoose or you have like a yoke, however way you name it, whatever your naming convention is. So your conf user will be the last one you did, but when you go into the game the next time, say you've just gone and redone your yoke was the last one you did, but you want to set up your joystick again, in the controls, you go and you load that control. So you'd be going load page, it'll come up here, you'd pick mongoose, and it'll come up and your mongoose will be back up and running again. I hope I explained that okay. Let me know if you want me to repeat or say it in a different way. Yes, kids. So I've got the Mongoose. I don't have the throttle. I love the throttle. I use a Warthog throttle, which I love as well. But I've got to tell you, the Mongoose with the extension, the desk mount, which I picked up for a pretty good price, second hand, is an incredible joystick. So, would anyone, if anyone's got any questions, if you want to fire them off for a couple of minutes, we can answer some questions. And if anyone would like me to run through that again, let me know, because it's, I'll go through a little bit quicker. Okay, so Marku, just go into the game and you can rename it, because it's just your control. So leave the confuser as far as this folder goes. Leave that, but in the game you can go and save it. My recommendation, given that we're in the game to do this, I'd probably, and Mike, I know you don't need to, but I'd probably get out and come back, and then it'll be all done. Okay, set up for trim. Alrighto, let's have a look at trim. Slider for trim. Okay, which trim are you looking for there, Wilso? He's using a slider. Okay, aileron's good. Elevator's good. Rudder's good. So to answer your question, yes, you can. Okay, Robert. Might have to take that one offline. I'm not sure why you can't start Cliffs to Dover. See if we've got the brains trust here, Yo, and maybe he may know. I'm not sure. Hey Fubar, if you try and get in touch with Correa, he recently bought a Wing. Thanks, Marku. Okay, can I show how to invert an axis? You bet. Rightio. Get out of there. Okay, so if you want to invert anything, there's an invert direction button on a number of choices as we go through. Just hit it. That's all you need to do. Yeah, is that what you meant? Yes, Mark, you enjoy, mate. And it's a beautiful day in Australia. Yeah, thanks guys for helping out there with the issue that Robert's got. Okay, Fubas, I'm just reading your comment there. Yeah, Fubar, I use the same flap switch and works absolutely fine for me, so I'm not sure why it'd be any different. So do you mean, mate, when you go up, when we're going through this, if I go back, pick up and landing flaps. So we won't use the axis control. So when I press down on the flaps, I get button 22. If I was to go up, it's button 21. So that's not what you're getting? Thanks, Ian. Really appreciate you joining and appreciate your comments. Have a good one. I just want to thank too, you can see that there's 61 people watching this tutorial. If anyone has joined in late and they'd like for me to start from the beginning, I'm happy to go through that again. Just let me know. Obviously it'll be up as a recording at some point in the next 24 hours. The YouTube stream does take a long time to download, I guess given the size of it. Robert, the only suggestion I've got, because I'm in PR, not the technical side, is if that was me, I'd probably uninstall and reinstall and see what happened. Does anyone have any questions in a particular component of the setup? As I said, when you're finished, you can get rid of all your backups. And as a couple of guys have said as well, the Windows updates can... Thanks, Wilso. Appreciate you joining, mate. The Windows updates can muck around with key bindings, reasons unknown. Ask Windows. If you're worried about it, just save your conf user file somewhere else and you can bring it back in. I might have to call my resident translator Yo in for you there, Kostya. Okay. I wouldn't say we're wasting time, mate. Yeah, let us know how you go, Robert. It's a last resort thing, but I guess it's pretty easy to do nowadays. Okay, thanks for your feedback there, Skids. Hope it hasn't been an issue for everybody. So for those, when we first started, there was about 20, and I asked if anyone had actually used the Joystick Wizard. Has anyone, I said, I'm mindful we've got 60 odd viewers now. Has anyone used it so far? Thanks, Paul. Really appreciate it. Yeah, it does make it a lot simpler, isn't it? Okay, Raf, let's go back to that. View related. Zoom. Let's check your question again. Now I've only got the buttons for that, mate. If you use an axis, you just have to go into the controls, get that squared away. As I said, the Joystick Wizard doesn't capture everything, but it captures everything that we think cover the basics of setup, and will save new people a lot of time. Yeah, obviously, Paul, we're at the bottom of the barrel for instructors if he's flying you into a mountain. Must have lied on his CV. No worries, Raf. Yeah, and as Yo says, everybody, if you can, share it around, let people know it's there. I think that the joystick setup has been one of the, for a number of people, one of the negatives about Cliffs of Dover and Tobruk, and I think we've solved that problem. And we do listen to the community. I think a lot of people can see with the updates that have been had since the game came out, we're up to number 11, with fixes that we knew we needed to fix, and also going off community comments as well, where we could go, hey, we can actually fix this, and we will. And I've got an audience as well. A lot of people are asking where are we up to with VR, where are we up to with True Sky. I can say that that True Sky is our number one major priority outside of the normal updates that we're doing at the moment, and we hope to have that out by the end of the year. We're quite confident with that. True Sky is an incredibly important program for us to get right, so it is one that we would rather make sure that is the case before it goes to community, rather than just rush it out. And so appreciate everyone's patience in relation to True Sky. And once True Sky does come out and we've squared that away, VR will then become our priority piece of work going forward. And I think once we do get VR in the game, and once again, this is a major thing to get squared away for the game. It's not going to be easy, but I think that once we do implement it, given that the VR components like or headsets like the Reverb G2, which is coming out very soon, I think if you're into VR, you thought about VR, if you've seen any videos around that one, you'd be pretty excited about VR. I think that the ability to play and fly in the Battle of Britain, Battle of North Africa in VR is going to be amazing. So when there's people in the community go, when's VR coming out and how come it hasn't, just understand that the guys in Team Fusion are as keen as mustard to see that as just as much as you are. We've just got to have our priorities of how we bring new components out for the game. So I'm just reading a couple of comments there. So Raf, are you saying Boz is using True Sky? I don't think they're using True Sky. But I mean, about 12 months ago, I saw an early look at, which I've posted pictures about, of True Sky, and even at, I would say very, very alpha stage, you could just tell straight away that it was going to be a game changer. So looking forward to that. Does anyone else have any questions? As I said, if you want me to run through the program again, quite happy to do so. For those who missed the start, when I said, for those who've updated to 11, which everyone probably should have now, this is where you'll find it. So I'll just bring this over. Whoop. Oh, there we go. Just in your game folder under Joystick Wizard, that's where it's at there. And you just double click on it and it'll bring up the screen that you're looking at now. And once you've saved, it saves in your 1C Soft Club folder. It's here under the Confuser. And as you go through your advanced options, each time you go through, it will ask you to save. It will then save a copy, so you'll end up with a number of copies. But the Confuser, you'll be able to tell from the date and time, is the main source. That's what's going to be in the game. Thanks, Raf. Appreciate that. Feedback just in relation to 4 engines, we are looking at that. Incredibly technical to be able to get to that point. And is probably the reason why you don't see too many multi-engine, particularly 4-engine aircraft in any games done properly because of technical aspects to it. Yeah, sorry, Fibber, I'll just show you again what I did there. So I use the flaps buttons on the Warthog and it works for me. So if I'm going down, oh, better get out of axis. So down is button 22 and if it was up, it's button 21. And as mentioned before for anyone who missed it, as you go through, when you put in your control setup, go next, don't go skip. Skip will delete what you've just done essentially. So always go next so it saves it. So then up button's 21. So 21, 22 foo bars, isn't that what you get? Thanks, Jeff. I mean, we're all about continuous improvement of the game, and this is one of them. So appreciate your comments there. Now, if we only put together a wizard on how to shoot straighter, I'd be there for sure. So I don't know about you all, but some days I have my shooting boots on, and some days when I fire it ends up in another server. I miss that far. Okay, Fubar. Yeah, no, mine works as you can see on the screen, so I'm not quite sure there. Welcome, we've now got 75 people watching, so I might just run through, there's got to be people that might have missed, so I'm going to run through the whole setup again, and we'll go from the start. Let's get there. And for those who are new to the live stream, I'll keep it in sequence so I don't get myself confused. Okay. So where do you find the Joystick Wizard in patch 11? You find it in your game folder. Just have a game folder, Joystick Wizard. Double click on it, it brings up this screen. Yeah, it's definitely 2 button. Yeah, there's an up and there's a down. Okay, so the first thing we'll do, we're going to go into basic controls. Just a reminder before you actually, I'm sure you would have done this because I'm sure you would have done it, is have your joystick plugged in before you start the Joystick Wizard. And then we'll set up the flight controls here. And the great thing is, obviously you've got the visual prompts plus the there, so you can go, you don't need to move the joystick left, right, up and down, you know, in circles. You don't have to do any of that. You just can go one way, it'll pick the joystick up. So for this I'm going to go right on my joystick and it picks it up. Okay, if you want to invert your joystick, and there's an invert option in a number of components, yes, Fubo, yep, go and have a crack and let us know. Send us a message. You can choose invert, so you can go yes or no. I'm not going to invert it, so I'm going to let it go. Elevator, you can go up or down, it doesn't matter, just one of them. It picks it up straight away. If you get rudder pedals, you can go left or right. When I tried it before, I went left. When I did it when I went right here, it still works. Throttle control, just move your throttle. Your main trigger. If you have wheel brakes, there's left and right. If you do have a brake lever that's an analog lever, you can use that. If you've got a brake lever that is digital, which means it's essentially a button, it's not going to do the same thing. But I've got a Mongoose, it does have an analog brake lever. Using this wizard and then using it in the game is absolutely outstanding. Taxiing will never be any easier. So there we go next. And just for those who do have the Mongoose can read your lever as either a digital button or an analog lever. As you can see, it flicks around a little bit for me, so if it'll pick it up as a button, if I press it in again, it'll pick it up as an axis. So you wanted to pick it up as an axis. Next. And that's it. That is the basic controls, all squared away, all saved, all done. We're back to the draftsman skids. Okay, so now we go into advanced controls. The advanced controls, as you can see, are trim adjustments, engine controls, takeoff and landing, bomb related, and view related. We're going to go to the trim. This is where you can set up either in analog or digital. So if you use access control for your ailerons, you can put them in there. Just as an example, I'll just use the slider. If you go, oh man, I pressed the wrong button, I pressed the wrong axis, I want to do something different, just move them around. I'm just moving it around, it's just picking up whichever I want to use. So you don't have to go back and then come back in. Okay, so if I was setting my slider up for that, I would go there. If you go skip at this point, you're not going to set that. If you go next, it will set it. I'm not going to set it, so I'm just going to go skip for this instant. If you use buttons for aileron control, I personally don't, but if you did, you can set them. As I said, you can choose whichever button. Just because you pick one doesn't mean that it's set and you have to go back. So I'm going to skip because I don't use trim buttons. And that's it. Save. Now, as you save, it's going to save each time. Okay, so here's as it's going here. So it saved it in the confuser. So we're at the latest one here, which we just did. But the ones previously when we've saved are going here. So at the end of this, you're going to have probably about 8 or 9 different saves. Just delete them because this is your main one. Okay. Okay, so we go to elevator trim. If you have an access for that, I've got a trim wheel. You can use that. For those who, does anyone actually on here actually use a trim wheel? If you do, sometimes this picks it up quickly. I think it's more a trim wheel issue than the program issue, but just move your trim wheel up and down until it gets picked up. So go next, remembering not to hit skip so it doesn't get rid of it. If you use trim buttons for your trim, then you can choose up and down here. Hey Fubar, that's a really interesting question. I don't think so. I've never used it like that. If anyone else has got a warthog and they know the answer to Fubar's question, let me know. But if I had to give a yes or no, I would have said no. But could be wrong. Okay, so the trim up button, if you use it, put it in there, and then go next. I don't, so I'm going to skip it. and I'll go skip there. We'll save that, so that saves the axis. I'll just answer Paul's question here. Okay, Paul, you've got, when you start the game up, do you have version 5.011? Seeing if you've got, yeah, as Joe said, I'm not sure if you've got version 11. So if you can maybe kick the game over and let us know, and we can help you out from there. Okay, rudder control. If you use trim axis, axis for the rudder control, you can do that. There you go there. I don't, so I'm going to skip, but I do use buttons for rudder control, so I'm going to go left, making sure I'm pressing next, and right, next, save. Okay, the trim adjustment's all squared away. Okay, Yo and I'll keep a lookout for your next comment once you kick the game over there, Paul. Great. Well, if you've got the trim wheels on your Cytec, mate, that's great. Okay, engine controls. War emergency power. So if you've got an axis for that, you can put that in there. I don't, because I use a button. There. And a separate button for boost cutout. And that is how easy it is to get your boost and your WEP sorted out. Water radiator, I use levers for water and oil. You don't have to move them up and down. As soon as it picks up that it's there, I move that 1/2 inch and it picked it up. That is it. So we go to next. And if you make a mistake, you can go back. Once again, picked it up. If you use buttons, this is where you get to put your button in, and so forth. Once again, if you've made a mistake and you just want to go forward, just go skip. Otherwise, you can go back. I don't use buttons, so I'm just going to skip. Skip that one as well. If you use that one, I don't. Skip there and save. Oil. Use the lever, so that's done. If you use buttons, put those in. Save. Prop pitch. As I mentioned before, I do use buttons for this. I just find it a bit easier to use in prop pitch in the non-auto prop pitch aircraft. Particularly when you're in combat and you're really listening out to your engine noise as you're trying to do everything else. I just find using the buttons is easier. Definitely have the auto prop pitch toggled in. So that's how quick you can do your engine related controls. Paul, right on. Welcome to 11 when it updates, mate. It's good to know. That's why I enjoy live streams, and you can ask people straight away and you get a straight away answer. Thanks, Joe. Okay, takeoff and landing. So landing flaps, if you use axis, I don't. I do for the Bombay doors, but I'm just going to just show you for the sake of showing you. Remember, whenever you see an invert, you've got the option there. I'm just going to skip because I'm not going to use it. Flaps down. Flaps up. I don't toggle flaps, so that's all good. And save. And then we go to bomb related. Okay, Bombay doors, I do use the axis, the slider on the Warthog. There. If you use a button, you can do that. Don't forget to arm your bombs. I have to say to myself all the time. Interested to see for those who do bombing, when do you arm your bombs? I can tell you when I do. It's as soon as the game loads, so I don't forget. Bomb drop. that is that. And then the zoom, it's a bit of a tip for you here. There's a number, excuse me, there's a number of zoom options. Okay, I use zoom in, zoom out. That will be the final two options of option 5 and option 6. Okay, I don't use these here, but I run through them. So you've got maximum zoom control, normal zoom, minimum, and decrease. Okay, so it's 4 and 5 you've got to do. Okay, so put in there, make sure you go next. Actually, I'll go back because, yeah, that's right. Yeah, next, increase. Next, and lean to gun sight. Next, and save. So for those who use a hat switch to look around, I'm fortunate to have a track IR. Some people have different kinds of head tracking, and that's great. But if you do use pan, I'll go through the options that you have here. So you have pan up, right to up, right, there's a lot, as you can see, there's 8. Right down, pan down, and you can see this too with the arrow. It's just, you shouldn't need the arrow, but just in case, you can see which way it's going. And that is it. That is your controls all squared away. As I mentioned before, this is where it will save, and you can see, I'll just move across there a little bit more, that all those saves I did backups, okay? But the last save, so what will be in game when you go back into it, is this one here. Okay, so you can pretty well get rid of all these. So I need to make sure I wasn't deleting anything I shouldn't. I said this one here, 825, is the latest one. For those who weren't here when I was mentioning it before, if you do use different, like if you've got a joystick and a yoke and you swap them around, or you've got a couple of different joysticks you like using, when you go into the game, under controls, I'll just move this away for a second. What you've just done there, if it was this as an example, okay, normally you'd be doing this out of the game and then coming into the game. I've just used the game as a backdrop to the screen. You can save this setup, which is your conf setup, as whatever joystick you got. So I've got a mongoose. I'd save this as a mongoose setup. I'll show you what it looks like in a minute. If you then want to go and do another joystick or do a yoke or something like that, get out of the game, kick over the Joystick Wizard again, make sure you got that plugged in, as in, so for instance, if you had a yoke, plug the yoke in, go through the Joystick Wizard again using the yoke, and yes, you have to assign the keys and so forth. Come into the game. Now this will be, your yoke will then be the default control. Okay, save that as yoke or something like that. Rightio. And give you an example, because I've done this, is there's my yoke, disregard the date because you can see I've updated it here, and there is my mongoose, and there's my force feedback. So that's how you do it. So when you load that in, you can choose your yoke, you can choose your joystick, and you are ready to rock and roll. Obviously there are other key bindings that you can add in. You can go through the control options to do that, but this is the basic. It's as simple as you're going to get it. It's very quick. I know. I just read Joe's fancy joystick thing. My wife shakes her head, let me tell you. Absolutely, Bruce, I'm just reading that. So, did you pick up when I was just talking about how you can do multiple profiles? Because in saying that, I mean, for the twin engine stuff, you still have to go into your control options to set up those. That's not part of the setup wizard, but it'll get you the majority of what you need. Then go in, then add more, save that as that controller, and you are away. So the Joystick Wizard doesn't mean you don't have to do anything else, but probably 80 to 90% of what you need, particularly for those who fly single engine, it is it. So I'll just have a read some of the comments. I don't know if we got Paul back after his update. Let's have a look. No, he's not back yet. How much longer you got to go there, Paul? Skid, so you got a wheel as well? Yeah, they're great. Just the fidelity of it's brilliant. Some flight sims don't use it, which I find very odd. Okay, MDC, anything new in the view? I just went through all the view related, so that's what's in the Joystick Wizard. Yeah, Fubo, Yo knows things. It's probably the best way to describe Yo. And thanks, mate, for being on today as well. Helped a lot. Ah, Paul, you're done. Righto. And did you find it easy to find? And yep, let us know, mate, because I think you're the first person that's pretty much live on our stream that's actually using it. Actually, we've still got 60 odd guys here. I'm keen if anyone else wants to jump in and have a go at the Joystick Wizard while we're on. So if you've got any questions, we can answer them. It's this is like a virtual call center. So give it a go. Actually, well, we've got so many people on the stream at the moment. If you've got a favourite aircraft of Tobruk, keen to know which one you're flying the most. Personally, I can't pick. I will fly. Well, I can fly. I do fly pretty much everything, but for I don't know, I'm always drawn towards a Tomahawk. Must be said. Love flying a welly with my yoke, and outstanding cockpit. If you fly the Mackie and you really love the cockpit, a certain Team Fusion member on this live stream would love to hear your comments about how much you love the Mackie cockpit. Hey Paul, the WEP's there, mate. If you can see it there. There's your WEP. Yeah, use a key. Well, if you're running out of buttons on your joystick or your throttle or whatever you've got, you need to find something, but if you can get it on your stick, it's easier for me. Must be someone out there that likes the Mackie. So is anyone out there actually giving the Joystick Wizard a crack while we're on? That's alright, Skids. I don't think Yo did the gun sight. He just did everything else. Yeah, that's it, Fibbo. Get stuck in, mate. And for those that are on the stream, I know we've dropped a few people off because we've pretty well gone through everything. We are still working on improving the visuals of the game, and a lot of work is going into tessellation at the moment. We've seen some very early work in relation to that. It's pretty exciting stuff. So keep a look out for more news in relation to tessellation improvements. Oh, you are the gun sight. Whoops. And Fibbo, what do you fly the most, mate? I must say, when it comes to gun sights and so forth, whoever the genius that came up with the D520 gun sight must have been into watches, because it looks like a timepiece. Oh, I do love flying the D520. If you haven't flown that yet, get into that. It is it's a nice little aircraft that packs a pretty good punch. We flew that in a live stream a few weeks ago, and if you get behind a 109, the 109 is in all sorts of trouble. But it shows how quickly aircraft technology occurred during the war. That's something like a 520 that would do very well over the Battle of France. Once, for those who fly it in Tobruk in the North African setting, is how outdated it is not that long after time-wise with the other aircraft that are in there. Okay, Paul, let's have a look at that. So landing, excuse me. Okay, how do you switch from access to toggle switch in the advanced setting, e.g. landing mode, flaps and gear? Okay, so we go to flaps. So you've got that option for access control. If you don't want to use it, just skip it. And then you can go your buttons. So up, down, and toggle. Yeah, so if there's any that you don't want, just skip. If you want to keep it, you need to go next after you've selected it. In relation to the landing gear, once again, if you want to use an access control, you can. If you don't, just skip it. Then you go up or down, up or toggle. We might bring the live stream to an end shortly. All, has anyone got any questions? Yeah, give it a go, Paul. It's always good to not kill yourself. But now you've done the full setup, how did you find it? Thanks, Vibar. Yeah, we love this. This is why when I saw this, I thought I need to do a quick tutorial on the Joystick Wizard. Absolutely thrilled that we had 75 people watching it at one point, which is really great. So if you're one of those people and you look later on at the recording on YouTube, thank you very much for joining us. It will be out, and I mean, the great thing is you can always fast forward, so you can get rid of the crap that I talk about and just go straight into how to actually do it. Just going to go through now. Just going to see where it's got toggle to gun sight. Or lean to gun sight, I should say, not toggle. But as you can see, with the amount of choices, excuse me, that are available for the aircraft in the game, the Joystick Wizard makes it so much easier. Obviously, it doesn't go into everything. You see the different bomb bay options and so forth for those going into that. Here's one here that we in the settings that we improved for Tobruk. The start selected engine. We changed the wording. The wording to start an engine with cliffs was pretty confusing, and actually it was a bit hard to find when it should have been one of the easiest buttons to assign in any setup. So we changed that. So anyone goes, how do you start the engine? You go to start selected engine. And that's it. This is where everything's been sorted here. There's a lot. You can nearly lose yourself in these controls. Okay, well, thanks, Joe, for posting the links. I was going to have a fly, but I actually want to end this live stream so it just becomes the live stream for the setup. Plan is that we'll have our next event next weekend, so which we will live stream. We'll work on that in the next couple of days to see which mission we're going to do. And we'll go from there. But thanks again for everyone for joining today's live stream. Really appreciate it. Hope everyone is enjoying Cliffs of Dover Blitz or Desert Wings Tobruk if you've got both, and that they find the Joystick Wizard is a great addition to the game. So thanks again, everyone. Really appreciate it. Have a safe week, and we'll talk to you next time. Cheers. Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it.